What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you some minifigure poses that will take your Mocs to the next level. Before I get started with the poses, I want to show you guys what I'm going to be using to pose the arms. This is called Simply Tacky. It's basically sticky tack, the stuff that you use to hang posters and pictures on the wall. It's very sticky, you can pull it apart into little balls, and the nice thing about this is when you're done, you can actually stick it back in the container and reuse it for later. So the first pose we're going to be doing today is an officer kind of marching with his arms behind his back. So pull both of his arms off, get yourself a nice little glob of sticky tack, stick it underneath kind of where the armpit would be on the arm, and then basically just place it in the position you want, and the position you feel best represents, someone sticking their arms behind their back. This takes a little bit of trial and error. I don't usually get it on the first try. You can kind of play around with the different sizes of sticky tack. Since we're only posing the arm, he's not holding a weapon and it's not outstretched or anything, we won't need to use a whole lot of sticky tack. One important thing to remember is that you are still sticking the arm kind of in the socket on the torso. That way it still looks like, his arms are where they should be. That way the shoulder isn't like down below, halfway down his torso or something like that. This looks pretty good. I am going to readjust this arm. This is kind of just trial and error on figuring out like how much sticky tack you need, as well as where to put it, and then just kind of placing it in a way that it is as hidden as possible. That looks pretty good. We're going to set him aside and start on the next minifigure. Next, we're going to be doing a shock trooper that's going to be marching behind our officer. So I pulled off his right arm, and then we're just going to do the same thing, stick that little sticky tack underneath the arm. I like to put the sticky tack on the arm instead of the torso. This allows me to kind of place the arm where I want without worrying that it's on the sticky tack all the way. And then basically what we're going to do with this one is kind of have his arm come across the front of his body like he's holding his rifle out in front of him. This one's going to be a little bit tougher than the officer just because he's going to be holding, a giant blaster in his arm. In this case, it looks like I've got a little bit too much sticky tack, so I'm going to try using a little bit less and see if that's a little bit easier to conceal while still being strong enough to hold the arm and the gun up. Once you've got the arm in the right place and it looks like his shoulders, where it should be, go ahead and pose his second arm just kind of somewhere either underneath the gun or behind the gun, so it looks like he's holding it up with his other arm. And there you go, we've got a shock trooper ready to march. Next, we're going to do something a little bit more action-packed. I've got my clone captain from my custom rhino company. I've got his right arm pulled off again, and I'm going to be sticking that sticky tack down underneath. Instead of under the armpit, I'm going to have this one kind of back behind the shoulder, because that's going to be back behind him and underneath the pauldron, so that'll be easier to hide, whereas if we had it underneath his armpit, you can see that would be pretty visible. That's one thing you want to be aware of when you're posing minifigures, is what's going to be exposed and what's going to be hidden. Use that to your advantage. Try and conceal that sticky tack as well as possible. Now we've got his arm out and ready to go. I did take his leg off because I'm going to be showing you kind of little pose with him where he's got his leg kind of up on top of a little rock. So we're going to place the captain right there, and then you can see there's a little pile of plate in front of him, and we're going to stick his leg on that. That way it kind of looks like he stepped up onto that, kind of got his leg out in front of him with his arm outstretched. This will just give the minifigure, a lot more of a lifelike pose. Next, we're going to be doing something similar to what we did with the shock troopers. We're going to have a clone trooper with his arm in front of him. However, this time we're going to have him in the process of shooting at droids. So we're going to have his arm out in front of him. Same thing we did with the shock trooper, but we're going to be turning his helmet, basically making it look like he is following the path of his blaster, aiming at something, pointing at something. And then you're going to want to have his gun either on top of his front arm or in front of it. That way it looks like he's holding it out in front of him. And you can see he's got the helmet pointing the same direction as the blaster, and then we've got his leg out behind him. This will just give a little bit more of a feeling of motion and like he's moving either away or towards his target. Next, we're going to place some droids. These guys are pretty simple. Basically what I do is make it look like they just got punched. Like this guy just got punched in the chest, so his arms are outstretched and his head is bent forward, and then you're going to kind of tilt him back when you set him down, basically making it look like he took a blaster to the chest. This guy got hit in the side, that's why I've got his left arm skewed out to the side and his head kind of moving in that same direction. Basically, when placing droids, I just try and imagine where they're getting hit by the blaster and then just making their arms, legs, and head follow that same direction. And then this guy's just going to be standing there shooting. My final scene I'm going to be making today is a Jedi scene. We're going to be using Obi-Wan Kenobi here. He's going to be using the Force, so we're going to have his right arm outstretched, so I'm going to get a little glob of Simply Tack, place it on the back side here. There is really no rule of thumb on where to place the sticky tack, just to where it doesn't distract or take away from the minifigure, if that makes sense. So we're going to put it right there, that way it looks like his arm's outstretched in front of him. The nice thing about this sticky tack is it's very close to the same color as his robes, so it's not very distracting. Like if I had black or red there, it'd be really confusing as to what it was. Make sure his head is pointing in the same direction as his outstretched arm, and then we're going to have his leg out back behind him, just giving that feeling of motion like we did with the firing clone trooper. Well guys, those are some simple techniques for a patrol, battle, and then you got your Jedi action. I hope you guys enjoyed these tips and techniques. Make sure to let me know what you thought of these down below in the comments, and which one was your favorite, and any others you'd like to see me do in the future. As always, I really appreciate you guys watching the videos. If you like the video, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future content. But until next time, happy building.